Well, hello there. Welcome to the post-summit world for me. I am in. If you follow what we do over here at eCommerce MasterPlan, you'll know that for the last week we ran our virtual summit, and I'm slowly emerging out of the fog that is running a virtual summit. It was amazing. We got a lot of people signed up, helped a lot of businesses, so it's very, very cool. But yeah, post-summit fog lifting, and what better way to get rid of the post-summit fog than to run one of our Keep Optimizing Q&A webinars. So this one is all about email marketing. So let me bring my slide deck up and explain what we're all about in this session. So at Keep Optimizing on the podcast, each month we focus on a different marketing method, and I get a different guest on each week to help me go deep into that marketing method and help retailers work out what to do with it. So it's like kind of a mini masterclass. And whenever we can, we end the month by getting as many of our guests back as we can to do a live Q&A panel where the audience get to ask questions. You know, something that happened in one of the episodes, they've given it a go, they've tried it out, and they haven't managed to succeed, or they got stuck somewhere, or they've got a question on how they can do it better. That's the sort of thing we want them to bring along to this. We also generally end up having a bit of a kind of bigger, more all-encompassing conversation about what's going on in e-commerce marketing and in email marketing in this case as well. So that's what we're here for today. And I have two marvelous guests lined up to answer your questions. I'll tell you a little bit about them in a second. First off, though, wherever you're listening, if you're here live, I know a lot of you like to catch the replay, but if you're here live, you get to ask your questions in this session. And you can do that by adding it in the comments box wherever it is you're watching. So if you're on YouTube, add it in the YouTube comments and that will filter through to me. Likewise, if you are doing that on LinkedIn, ask the questions there and they will filter through to me, and I will pose them to Gen and Komal, who are here to help us with our email marketing. The other thing to say on asking us questions is do it now. Ask your questions early. We're only here for 45 minutes. And if you wait till minute 44, your question isn't going to get asked. If you wait pretty much to about minute 40, your question isn't going to get asked. So don't wait right until the end. Ask your questions early if you've got questions to ask. If you don't have questions to ask, sit back and enjoy as we debate what's going on in email right now. So joining me, I've got two of our guests from this month. I've got Gen from Prehook, who are all about quizzes. Okay, all about quizzes, which is, you know, zero-party data, all that good stuff, personalization, big topics in email right now. And you can drive more revenue with a quiz even right now by starting your free trial today at prehook.com. And then we've got Komal, who is with Pure360, which is an email marketing platform based here in the UK. And you can get a demo of the Pure360 platform at www.pure360.com/book-a-demo. And down in the bottom right-hand corner, that is me. I am the host of the Keep Optimizing and the eCommerce MasterPlan podcast, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or via the website. That's far too much of me. So let's bring our guests up and let them give you a proper intro to them and what they're about. Hello, how are you both?
Hey, Chloe.
Hi, Chloe.
Great to have you. Hold on, she says, hitting the wrong button to change the screen. Right, great to have you both here. So like I said, I would love for you to tell the audience a bit more about you, your background, and your company as well. So again, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. First of all, Chloe, thanks so much for having me. My name is Gen Furukawa. I'm based in Austin, Texas, and co-founder of Prehook. So Prehook is a quiz platform for Shopify merchants. We help merchants accelerate list growth, improve conversion rate, and capture zero-party data. So basically, the goal is to simplify the buying process, learn more about the customers so that brands can understand what problem they're solving for and position their marketing appropriately. And so it's not only improving the on-site experience, but also, and this will definitely tie into what Komal's offering in Pure360, but the post-site experience. So whether that's email or SMS, how you can use the data, what you know about your customers, let's say their interests, preferences, goals, challenges, and craft a compelling narrative specifically to their goal. So that's what I think is one of the big opportunities in 2022 is to personalize. And so that's where we're helping hundreds of Shopify brands do that by gathering the data, and then it kind of gets ported over to Komal and email service providers.
Excellent intro. And Komal, how about you? Give us
Yeah,
a bit
brilliant.
more 360 background.
Gen and I have just met today, and I'm really excited about being able to chat with him because actually, zero-party data is so essential in a privacy-first world we're moving to. So really excited to present together with Gen and Chloe. So a little bit about me. I'm Komal Helyer. I've got about 20 years experience in digital marketing. I've worked with leading brands, including HSBC, Black & Decker, M&S Money. Recently, VP of Marketing at Pure 360, but working as fractional CMO now. I'm also the chair of the DMA Email Marketing Council. A little bit about Pure 360. We are a personalization marketing automation technology business focused on e-commerce and travel brands. And we're really excited to just been named leader in the email marketing category by G2. And we've recently been bought by a wider group called Spotless. So lots of exciting technology there targeted specifically to e-commerce and travel businesses.
Super exciting time for Pure 360. It's going to be really interesting to see how that expands over the coming months and years. I am watching interestedly. But anyway, right. You both mentioned around this year being a different year, things changing, personalization changing, privacy becoming ever more important. It also, as human beings and consumers, we are seeing prices rising and our income being squeezed. And as brand owners, anyone in e-commerce is seeing a huge number of brands. Whilst I saw another one of those horrible but very real graphs of the pandemic e-commerce rise and then the sales going back to the original trajectory of e-commerce. It's quite a tough time to be in this industry, and I feel like email is one of the solutions to help us overcome those areas, because of it's like this awesome mix of retention marketing, personalization, leveraging your data and building strong connections, which is the way to cut through all of this. I'm assuming you both agree that emails are a great way to do this, so I'm going to, rather than just turn this into a webinar where we all just agree that email is awesome, because we clearly do, I'd like to know, for a brand out there who's, they've kind of just been letting their email tick over for the last couple of years, which we can all be very guilty of. What's the next thing they should be putting on their email list to up the game? And again, as you're in the world of gathering data, I'll start with you, and then we'll come to Komal afterwards.
Yeah, sure. So that's a common question that people come to me with in terms of like, okay, we want to use a quiz, we can see the value in it, but like, what do we ask, or what's the strategy behind a quiz? And my suggestion is often think about how you would use it in kind of like the back end, and that's relying on segmentation. That's relying on how your post-welcome quiz flow would differ depending on what the cohort is or what the needs are, and then how it would dynamically personalize in the actual email. So at a high level, I think some of the most helpful things in terms of the data that you'd want to collect revolve around the segmentation. And I think maybe that's one of the opportunities that a brand can always have is to narrow down and niche down their segmentation, and maybe where this customer experience gap occurs, where people are the data shows this, and I think it was an Accenture study or Segment.io customer data platform, that people are turned off by this one size fits all campaign and these like kind of uniform blasts that there's no personalization behind it. Granted, there is a challenge in what you're personalizing around, and that's part of the data part. Part of it is maybe the technical know-how or the tooling. But I think that the opportunity is in the personalization, And probably the best way to start is working in the segmentation of it. So like whether that's the challenges, so you can like create a different flow based on the challenges that you're solving with your brand, or maybe what the goals of the customer are. And I'm sure we'll talk about this, but ultimately that's what we're doing as marketers, whether you're, a SaaS marketer like me and Komal, or you're a brand marketer, is like, you're just trying to get your customer to realize that they can get to their aspirational end goal, and your brand or your product is the bridge to get them there. And I think as you can get more narrow with the data that you're gathering and apply it to the segmentation, you put yourself in a far better place to stand out from the competition.
Yeah,
Very comprehensive answer there. Komal, to continue, what was your suggestions be?
Yeah, I mean, taking it back up to the problem that we're facing as e-commerce businesses and e-commerce agencies and tech providers. Consumers are bombarded, with way too much choice. We've also got a potential recession coming. We've got so many other things. We've got a privacy first world that we're moving to. And then you add in tons of choice. Now, you imagine yourself as a consumer, you're bombarded with all these multiple average marketing messages, and you're wondering, should I spend here? Should I spend there? Where am I going to spend that really hard-earned money? You're fighting with rising fuel costs. And so it's the e-commerce marketer's role is so much more essential today. To be able to cut through that noise and to cut through all that spraying and praying, because it's still happening to such a large extent. And I think, again, actually that number was 76% of consumers would switch off or move to another brand if they weren't being personalized, if the messages weren't being personalized or the experience wasn't being personalized. So how do you cut through that noise? And email is one of the perfect ways to be able to cut through that noise, but personalization is crucial to that. So whether that's personalization through email and then the continuation of that journey through web and so on. So personalization is absolutely key, but it's not really a strategy. It's a way to achieve the goals that you're trying to get to. And I think one of the first places to start is really understanding what those goals are and how you're going to achieve those goals. So for me, one of the first starting points is, do we have a clear understanding of what, the marketing objectives are, what the business aligned to business objectives? Do we really understand what those are? We're not talking about email marketing success being driven by opens and clicks. We're talking about email marketing success being driven by the end result that you're trying to achieve, whatever that is, whether that's downloads of leads or whether that's revenue and sales. So one of the most important places is to start, figure out what you're trying to do, make sure you have the right KPIs, make sure you have the right metrics, and then you can start on your journey of how am I going to achieve this, and what are the different tactics and data do I need to be able to achieve this.
It is one of those truisms as you go into times like what we've got ahead, these tougher times. It is essential to get the basics right.
Yeah.
And that is both double checking everything actually works on your website. I was emailing someone today going, by the way, your footer email sign up is not working. It's checking these basics are happening, but it's also going, right, what are we actually trying to achieve? Let's get our teams to work together and not in silos. Let's actually take that step back and go, hold on a minute, where should we go? Because I think, we've got to be bringing in this closer relationship with our customers. But one of the interesting things we explored across the month is, obviously, again, with you, we were talking about email capture and the power of quizzes leading into the personalization piece. Komal, with you, we were talking about creating great content to build great relationships. And then with Laura, who couldn't join us today, we were talking about capturing new data through Pinterest ads. Mind-blowing. For anyone who wants to go and explore that, we're not going to get into that today. But then we also had Gemma from Klaviyo, who can't join us for this session today. She was hoping to, but she couldn't. Something came up last minute. And in her session, we were kind of flipping both combining both your topics together to do zero-party data for retention, which I think is where most brands should be kind of starting, whether it's quizzing the existing database. And again, you were touching on this, I think, in your answer to the previous question, but it strikes me that we should be going, right, let's bind our existing customers to us by using the data we've already got, plus the quiz-based data, the zero-party data we can collect, to then create a really solid comms plan with them. And it feels like a lot of the zero-party data talk we hear is all about new. Let's gather new data, but actually there's a big role for it in retention as well. So I would suggest that would be a great place to start for any brand who's been in business for more than a year. Again, you are far more in zero-party data land than I am. So is that a good idea for someone who's been up and running for more than a year, or should they get that very front end fixed first? Or upgraded first rather than fixed?
Yeah, can I answer with that depends?
Yeah, of
Depends.
course
I
you
mean,
can.
just because, you know, a unilateral answer with no context, or it obviously differs based on situation. But yeah, we do see some customers using a quiz as like a post-purchase survey. There are other tools that are kind of like built for it, like Inquire Labs in the Shopify ecosystem. A lot of our brands use a quiz pre-purchase. And so there are different ways to use that. But a lot of the goal of the customers is ultimately revenue. And so that's why, you know, the call to action is, drive more revenue with a quiz. I think that certainly does tie in with retention. And I've seen more and more people talking about retention as this like unsexy thing. And it's not, people don't really want to talk about it. But if you, again, we're talking about the macro, rising cost per clicks, rising cost per acquisition, it doesn't necessarily make financial sense to just do this like one and done game where people are churning out. But I think one interesting play, if we talk about retention and a quiz or like capturing zero party data, is with these recurring subscriptions, e-commerce brands that are sending monthly boxes, let's say a Stitch Fix or a Scentbird. And kind of like it's a requisite that in the onboarding process, you fill out a quiz. And I think that you don't need to have a recurring brand, a recurring subscription order in order to find value in this. But if you think about it, of course, Stitch Fix, which is basically a data science company at this point, does as much as they can because they capture as much as they can. I think it's something like 70 something questions because every single order, they're making money both on the clothes that somebody decides to keep, but then also you could just churn out and cancel your order. And so, of course, it matters for a subscription brand. But like, yeah, there is a notion of retention for brands that don't have subscriptions. So that's also to say that like if you ask for more of like what the customers are looking for, it matters both in the product research element of like, okay, you're launching new brands. What's the existing demand? And you're getting that in a structured data form. For product launches, who's relevant to send it to. In America, there's Mother's Day coming up. Maybe you have some insight based on the quizzes. So there are so many different points in the customer journey where the data matters. And that's, of course, what we're talking about, personalization.
Well, and of course, the true, how do you improve your retention rate? Well, get the right customers in the first place. And obviously part of that is your marketing channels and, where you're sourcing customers from and how you're sourcing them. But I think now we have an extra part in that, which is how the quiz process helped turn them into a great customer as well. Komal, would you suggest we go retention or we build that retention piece if we've been in business for more than a year? You're allowed a depends as well, of course. Everything in e-commerce depends.
I'm both a marketer and a politician. It depends. It does depend. But if you remember, you talked about that trajectory of, during COVID, those e-commerce customers that are now dropping off. Now, why are they dropping off? They're dropping off because they're actually probably going back into store, or they potentially aren't purchasing anymore, or they're going to different businesses. And I think what we've got to remember is that as e-commerce brands, we probably gained a whole load of new customers, over that period of time. But very few, if any, treated those customers any differently. They're probably new to digital, they're new to brand. What do we know about them? What are we learning about them? How are we treating them any differently to our other customer base? And so that's a really important area to focus on as well for e-commerce, is how do we bring back those lapsed customers, and what can we learn about them? And quizzes can be brought into this whole notion around zero-party data driving personalization is excellent, because it's proven to be more relevant because the customer has told you about themselves, and it drives a whole load of different personalization campaigns. So I think it really depends on what the business is trying to achieve. It's a brand new business, it's been around for a year, then actually probably retention isn't the main focus, because it's only been around for a year. It needs to build its customer base. It needs to probably focus a lot on acquisition, and it needs to have a retention plan as well. So I think you have to think the whole life cycle. Just focusing on one part of the life cycle is not enough, unless you are a huge brand that has a massive database and thinks that it owns, you know, most of the email addresses, which some brands do. There are some brands that do own, you know, they probably own most of the consumer email addresses. So it does depend. It depends where you are, life cycle, your business objectives, what you're looking to achieve, whether you you want to get more of the customers that you've got. Do you have enough VIP customers? Do you have enough profitable customers? Therefore, you know, are we trying to then, you know, get more out of them? Can we push our non-VIPs into becoming VIPs or more loyal? So there's a whole, and this is what I love about email, is that there's no easy answer to anything. There are layers and layers and layers. It's like an onion that you can just keep delving deeper and deeper. And and then segmentation, personalization is crucial to being able to deliver all of that. But then again, when you talked about things like bringing customers back, email and data, really crucial for things like replenishment campaigns. How can we be more useful to the customers that we've got? This whole notion of usefulness is really important to me. How can we use email to become more useful to the consumer? And a really great way of doing that is by delivering things like replenishment campaigns. So, you know, if you're a fast moving consumer product and you have life cycles of a product, you know, someone's purchased something, you know, a month ago and they're up for finishing that particular shampoo bottle or whatever it is, you're sending them reminder emails to replenish. Those are the really great, useful customer retention campaigns. But some brands aren't even doing the basics, you know, not even treating people differently based on how they purchase from you, whether I'm a loyal person or I only purchase from you once a year. You don't treat me any differently. You don't talk to me any differently. You don't understand me any more than you understand, you know, the person that doesn't buy from you. So all of these things are really crucial. But again, you've got to prioritize. There's so many things to do. What's important to your business and what are the goals that you're trying to achieve, and prioritize those accordingly.
So what would one of those, I'm imagining, for example, like a skincare brand. So you'd buy like a moisturizer or something. You would assume that they're using it twice a day. It might run out in 2 months. Do you create a whole flow around that? Like order date plus 60 days and then have like, is that kind of like how you would segment the flow or the automation?
Yeah, and they're probably your hero products, yeah, you would just set those automations up based on your assumptions of how long that product should last. And generally, you would send it before that product's about to run out. And often you'll see, and it happens a lot in beauty, but it happens in, a lot of direct-to-consumer brands are doing it around food as well. I've got a lovely blog that I just wrote. I say lovely, I wrote it, but it's a lovely example of a direct-to-consumer brand around truffles. I'm a big foodie. I love my food. I signed up to a brand called the Truffle Guys, and their email marketing is totally on point. When I'm about to run out of a product, there it is in my inbox, and there's a quick click to purchase. It's a really clear email. You're about to run out. Don't, your cupboards are going to be bare. Purchase now. Or if it's makeup, or if it's, those kind of products, and you just set them up in your automation tools, and there is a particular time frame. You might not always get it right, but generally, if you do, it's a really useful, and it's a reminder, and it stops me from then thinking, oh, I've got to go and buy this product. I'm actually just going to go and buy it from my email because it's much easier.
Komal, you're going to have to send me the link to that blog, because I know everyone now wants to read it, and we'll add it next to this video and in the replay on the website. Definitely. I want to tweak our angle a little bit. Before I do that, though, if you're out there watching, please get your questions in if you've got them. If you're happy sitting back and just watching us chat, that's totally cool as well. But now will be a good time to get your questions in if you want them answered before we get to the end of this session. So we've been talking about the need to personalize and the need to segment. One of the kind of softer things I think we need to do is to work out how to build a stronger connection with the customers who are in both those who've just come and signed up for the first time and those who've bought from us once, twice, 3 times, how many times it is. And this is, I think, the bit which it's harder for brands to do, especially in difficult times when competition's up and spending's going down and all the rest of it, because it's very tempting just to go product. But actually how we build a long-term relationship is by understanding that customer wants reminders on how to buy, but they also want, where does this product come from? Is this a good choice? Have I done the right thing in buying this? On whatever angle that needs to be. They want to know the stories behind the brand. They want to know the humans, that emotional connection, because whilst it probably sinks down the list of what's important in making a purchasing decision when money's tight and all the rest of it, it's still in there. It's not, oh, this story's great, I don't care how much it costs anymore. It's like, yeah, the cost's got to be good, the value's got to be good, and then the choice between two otherwise equal options becomes, well, I really like how the founder treats his dog, or just something slightly spurious because they've connected on that values, that emotion level. Are you seeing any brands doing a particularly good job of this at the moment, or do you have any tips around getting this right? I'm happy for either of you to jump in on this one. Hopefully one of you will jump in.
Yeah, so there definitely are, and I think this is like one of the really exciting things as you're, like a quiz is basically having a conversation, the equivalent of in a brick and mortar store, you're a sales associate, you're asking, hey, Chloe, like, what are you here for? What are you looking for? What problems are you having? And I think that there are certain prototypes and patterns that emerge if you're a brand. An interesting one is for dogs that depending on the breed, there are different patterns in a dog's life cycle where anxiety or joint pain might come up, or some like different health issues occur. And if you do know this, it's an amazing opportunity to educate a customer. And I think like that's where you can really establish yourself. So you are providing value. And if you look at Robert Cialdini's book on influence, education or authority is really one of the key pillars of establishing influence. And that comes if you are able to demonstrate your expertise, and you demonstrate your expertise by teaching a customer. And ultimately, that's what these flows are for. Sure, you want to teach them about or maybe where the product's provenance is, or the founder story, why you're building this, but also like, okay, ultimately what's in it for me? That's like the answer that marketers are trying to solve for. If you understand that, like a dog brand, for example, or we see this, like Noom has a great quiz, not our quiz, but Noom is like a health and lifestyle app. They'll ask a bunch of questions, kind of like clinical questions about your age or your weight, your goals. As they answer, everybody gets a different quiz experience, because I'm, like 40 years old and have this weight and have this goal and have this lifestyle. And so they will kind of like dynamically change the quiz experience. That's educating me along the way. That's establishing them as the expert. And then that's also on a very tactical level, incentivizing me to drop an email. And then I am therefore opening my email inbox in my mind, basically to say, let me learn more, because now you know about what I'm trying to do, and I think that you might have the products to help me solve that. So yeah, basically, like, again, it's just almost getting repetitive, I think, but like, if you know these things, and you can like create conversations, and you can help educate, and ultimately, like, that's what this communication part is about, because we're just trying to help solve customers' problems, and the way you go about it changes its efficacy.
I remember a few years back, or possibly a decade ago now, I was doing some work back when I worked directly with brands with a business selling maternity wear. And that's a really interesting one for this piece, because there is such a small window of opportunity to sell. It's literally like a 3-week window where the average pregnant lady buys all her maternity wear. And so they were getting people to sign up to their emails in the a few weeks before that, when they started looking at maternity wear, and then they were sending updates on how the baby was progressing and what was going on, to be that source of good information. And coming back to what we've been talking about kind of throughout, about working out where the big opportunities for you are, they didn't do a lot of content around the last trimester. I don't know much about pregnancy, despite working for by being female and working for this brand, but like the last trimester stuff, where all the clothes have already bought, they didn't send that many emails. They didn't put the effort into building that content. They put the effort into building the earlier content that happened from sign up to that purchasing window, and just out the end of that purchasing window, so they get as many referrals as possible. So you get to be, you've got to understand your business and get quite canny with it to work out where that opportunity lies, which I think, Komal, is what you were talking about earlier when you're saying about you've got to get your segmentation right. Which group of our customers are we doing? Because I think often when people are thinking about quizzes and segmentation, they think they have to treat all their customers the same. It's like, we've got 20% of our customers have Labradors, 5% have poodles, and the rest have golden retrievers. So let's say Springer Spaniels, because it makes slightly more difference between the dogs. It's like, yeah, we'll spend as much effort working on the content for all 3 of those dog types. It's like, no, you've just identified that 75% of your customers, if I'm remembering my maths correctly, have Springer Spaniels. So you should be doing considerably more content around that. And I think that's often a bit that I think gets missed by brands when they're building out, is they think they have to be equally good for everything. Komal, your perspective on building these more trusting relationships, the more content side of things?
Yeah, it is, because email is not just about selling. So adding value, building relationships at every step of the way is crucial. And there are many reasons why that's good. So content, in terms of building trust, not just in content and educating, but also in social proof, using customer feedback, using testimonials, using customer stories, or any kind of user generated content to help drive your narrative and what it is that you're trying to articulate. So yeah, I mean, I'm a huge advocate on email not just being part of that, just selling product. And one of the best places to do that, as well as throughout the life cycle, but best place to do that is at the welcome. So when someone has just started to join the journey with you, they may have filled in a quiz, they may have come through a different channel. How are you going to bring them into your brand? How are you going to show that you understand them, but also bring them into helping them understand who you are and the brand that you stand for? So that process is really essential. But then also post-purchase. So you've got a whole range of opportunities to educate and to a lot of people have buyer's remorse when they buy something. They think, oh gosh, especially now when money's tight, should I have spent that money there? And brands should be then, straight a post-purchase campaign after that is all about not just upselling, but also being educational, talking about other people that have telling stories, other people that use that product, how to use it, how to match that product with, with other things, or, how to recipes on how to use your truffle dust or your truffle, these kind of things are really important that bring you in, and also are under the fold of being useful. How can we make, Jen said it, how can we, how can we make our customers' lives better? What problems are we solving? And how can we solve those problems? Not just by them getting and selling a product that we're but purchasing a product that we're selling, but how can we, what are the peripherals that we can offer as well, to educate, delight, surprise, engage, have fun with, all of these things that consumers want. And it's not just through email, but using all the different channels that are available to be able to do that, creating communities. And we should learn from the things that we did when lockdown hit. When lockdown hit, we were like, geez, what do we say? What do we sell? What do we say? We're not going to sell, so what are we going to say? Marketers went into overdrive, and there's some really great campaigns that came out, especially, in the travel industry, but restaurants and, restaurants really had to change their game as well. So there are lots of opportunities to engage with your consumer through email that is not selling. But we've just got talk about sort of building trust through messaging and values, and a brand that does that quite well is Patagonia. I know a lot of people talk about it, but if you have seen, they did a campaign which was "Don't buy this jacket." I don't know if you've seen it, Chloe, or Ken.
I haven't seen that one. I'm writing it down. Must go and look at the "Don't buy this jacket" campaign.
Yeah, so they are, Patagonia as a brand are immensely eco-conscious, and talking about sustainability, and they actually actively went out with a full campaign that said, think twice about buying this jacket because, of the environment, conservation, and so on. So, if you have these values, you've got to live and breathe them, and you've got to understand that it's not just about sales. If you're going to have these values, they've got to be authentic as well. And you've got to appreciate that you've got to make a true stand for what that means. You can say
so true. I'm going to give you both a chance to give your final thought in a moment before we wrap up. Before we do that, I just want to give my final thought, which is I love the fact that Komal mentioned post-purchase campaigns, because the moment the checkout happens, that's when the consumer has put so much trust in you. And then they've got to the point of excitement. They've gone through that exciting process of doing the checkout. And scientists have proved your heart rate goes up when you check out on an e-commerce site. They are so excited. And then nothing happens for hours, possibly days. So if you're not taking the opportunity to send communications that reiterate this is what you've done, if you're sending a tent and people get confused with how to put it up, if you haven't sent them a video on how to put up the tent, so you remove those negative things, you explain when it's being delivered, you send them awesome things to remind them, just an email full of all people who love the product, just to give the best possible unboxing experience by getting them excited in that gap. You are missing a trick. Anyway, I said we are very nearly at the end, so we're going to let each of our guests give their final thought to you on email marketing in 2020. Again, I will come to you first.
Yeah. Email marketing in 2022, I think, the value of, what I tell people is basically it's worth a test, because not all email contacts are created the same. So for example, if you pull up any contact in Klaviyo or Pure 360, what are the custom properties attached to it? And if you're just seeing maybe like opted in from a 15% discount on site, that's very different than if you understand, say, if you're a skincare brand, the skin type, the skin challenges, their use cases, their daily routine. Even, in some cases like Skin Safe, for example, a Unilever brand, they have where they live, their alcohol intake, their stress levels. All these things are like components that ultimately are like clues in this game of personalization that we've been talking about. So building an email list, the best time to start building it is yesterday. Second best is today. And the same, I think, with the data attached to it, because not all leads are the same. So I would say, even if it's, say, a Klaviyo 2-step opt-in, or Komal, I'm not sure if you guys have that opt-in option, but whether it's a quiz or something else, getting a like 1 or 2 questions would make a dramatic difference in helping you understand how you would segment, going back to our very first question, and then the types of messages and campaigns that you're sending.
Very nice. Komal, your final thought for everybody.
Yeah,
please.
so email marketing is almost on a maturity model scale. You could be a mass marketer all the way up to a predictor. And just because you're doing mass marketing doesn't mean that you can't take some of the bits from, higher up the maturity. So what I would say is just take a step back, think about what you're doing, map every single campaign that's going out, map it out, have it, map out your life cycle. What points in the life cycle are you actually communicating with the consumer? And are you doing any segmentation along the way? And then start thinking about how you bring in additional campaigns and start optimizing those additional campaigns, start testing them, where can you bring in additional, where can you bring in quizzes? Where's the right time in that life cycle to ask more questions other than at the beginning? And start mapping that out and have it visual. One of the best ways of being able to really understand is to have some, in your office or at home, just create a board of, what's the customer journey? What does it look like? And print out those emails, have a look at them, see what they look like. Do we understand that as marketers, you're probably not just looking after email, you're busy people. And I think, Chloe, I said this to you, the podcast, just be kind to yourself. Just understand that, there is a lot of stuff to be done. There's channels coming at you left, right, and center. You've got to be an expert in TikTok. You've got to be an expert in Instagram. You've got to be, there's all these things coming at you, and you've just got to really understand what it is your business needs to achieve, what it is that you're trying to do, ensure you've got those objectives, ensure you've got clarity, and do the best that you can and test, because, but make some choices. So always my biggest thing is just make a choice. It doesn't have to be the right choice. Test it. If it's not working, you could be agile enough to move on to the next thing. And there's a whole plethora of technologies and tools that are available to you at your fingertips, and we've talked through them already. So the tech is there to support you. It's just about how you deliver on it, and lean on your tech providers, lean on your agencies, lean on freelancers, and but just do the best that you can. I think that you've got to be kind to yourself.
I love that. Be kind to yourself, because we are coming out of 2 crazy old years in this space. I think we're all a little bit frayed around the edges. And yeah, there's plenty of challenge. But if you get that strategic bit right, you do your testing, then you'll be making the right decisions. And now is the time to start that testing ready for Q4. Well, again, Komal, thank you both so much for being here. It's been a pleasure catching up with both of you. And I'm going to just round us up now. So, she's done the wrong screen. Hold on, let's go to that one so you can actually see what we're looking at. So Gen and Komal here joining us for today's session, and you can find out about them there. We've shared those links with you as well. That makes the end of our email marketing masterclass that we've been doing throughout the month of April and a little bit into May. And this month in May, as of today, this is when the first episode in our new masterclass went live. We are all about SEO. Yes, the oldest online marketing tactic, maybe. We are talking SEO, and we're coming at it from 3 really intriguing angles. First off, we're doing what I think is our first ever episode on link building. Not that intriguing a challenge in SEO, but something we haven't covered before. But we're getting deep into the best link building strategy for you in 2022. That episode is live now, so you can listen to that straight away. Next week, we are going a bit off piste, talking about your online reputation and how you manage that. So what people see on the search results when they look for your business. Be scared. Go and Google yourself now and see what comes up. It's often not what you want. But Justin is back. He's been on the podcast a few times now. He's coming back to tell us about how to do that, which is all kind of SEO sculpting, if you like. And then we have the brilliant Luke Carthy back again, telling us why you should fix your conversion rate optimization before you fix your search engine optimization. All the 3 letters in that episode. And then at the end of the month, we hit episode 100, where we've got something special lined up for you, which I'm not going to tell you about now. You just got to have to go and find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, subscribe to our email newsletter, and then you'll find out in due course what we've got planned for you for our episode 100. For now, though, thank you so much for joining us for this live Q&A session. I hope you've learned a lot. I hope we've inspired you to sort out your email marketing this year, because you really should. And whatever you do, whatever marketing you're doing, do not forget to keep optimizing. Bye, everybody.